my entire life is dependent on cross-border trade. And this, honestly, makes me extremely nervous on Canada's future.
Prime Minister, we're looking for more information on the deal to open the Gordie Howe Bridge.
Oh, you want information? Well, here's some information. In 2012, we signed an agreement with the US that Canada is going to be building a bridge. $6.4 billion is what Canadians spent on building this bridge.
And if this is a Canadian project, why did you have to start giving? Why did you decide to start giving?
So the real question, why did we give up this 50%? If this is how we behaved with the Gordie Howe Bridge, what's coming up for Canada? Canada did not have $6.4 billion sitting in the bank account. Instead, the federal government borrowed money by issuing Government of Canada bonds. So who paid for the bridge? Well, obviously Canadian taxpayers financed the bridge through the federal government's borrowing and revenues. So there's an old agreement and now there is a new agreement in place. So let's first talk about the old agreement. The old agreement was that Canada paid to build the entire bridge. That's $6.4 billion. Canada collected 100% of the toll revenue until it recovered all the money it spent on building that bridge. So only then, after Canada got paid back its $6.4 billion, would revenues be split with the US. Now, Canada had full authority over the tolls through the Windsor-Detroit Bridge Authority.
The combination of that agreement and the sharing under that, it is a very marginal impact on the overall economics. So that's the overall what it is, what it isn't.
All right, so to recap the new agreement, 2026, Canada still paid the entire $6.4 billion expense for that bridge. For the first 15 years, Canada is going to split net revenues with the US, and the US is going to put this money into a US-controlled Economic Development Fund, which I'm going to get into in a bit. And now Canada uses its 50% to pay down that debt, and Canada still sets the tolls, but for the first 15 years, some larger toll charges require US review/consent. Now, that is the new agreement, but let's hear how our Prime Minister likes to wrap this around, and I'll give you some of my comments, concerns, and what I think about it.
It's not splitting the tolls of the bridge. It is an agreement for 15 years to split net revenues. Any sharing of the toll revenue won't happen until all of the debt is repaid.
All right, so let me explain that. So if the bridge collected and made $100 million net after all operating expenses, meaning they paid off their employees, they paid off the cleaning, snow cleaning, the maintenance, there's $100 million left at the end of the year. $50 million goes to the US and $50 million goes to Canada. Now Canada takes their $50 million and pays off that $6.4 billion. And the US takes that $50 million and puts it into a US-controlled economic development fund. Let's continue.
All of the portions that go to the U.S. government will be reinvested in economic development, regional economic development in the area, the U.S. side of the area, obviously, which is pro-cyclical. It reinforces, more traffic, higher revenues, more investment, and that's the way it moves forward.
So what he's trying to say is a bunch of BS. Why do I think that? Because this whole pro-cyclical that he uses, that is going to be reinvested and therefore cause more traffic on the border, Michigan can decide to spend their money on housing projects. They can decide to spend their money on upgrading their parks and neighborhood improvements. They can decide to spend their money on local restaurants and retail stores, which has absolutely nothing to do with building more traffic. This is a way of spinning it, a load of with a nice bow on top.
Mainly the Michigan side. That's obviously good for Michigan, but it's also good for Canada because it's going to reinforce the traffic. So we see the incentive alignment as a reasonable discussion. It's a good deal for Canada, good for the U.S., and it's great for both countries to have this bridge open, and we're looking forward to it.
Yes, it is great for both countries to have this bridge open, but at what cost? What did we just give up to the US in order to have this bridge opened? And why did we need to get into a new agreement in 2026 when the original agreement in 2012 should technically hold up? Well, now you have the facts. What are your thoughts about giving up 50% of our net proceeds over the next 15 years?